Hello and welcome to Newsmaker Live. Thank you very much for joining us for this program. Of course, like every other week, we have a great program for you. This week we have the CSA, the Civil Service Association, in the house, represented by the President, Ms. Mary Isaac, and also the First Vice President, Mr. Wilfred Pierre. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to have you finally on Newsmaker Live.
Thank you very much for having us.
You've been very, very active over the past few weeks. Finally, public servants represented by the CSA, they have gotten back to work as of yesterday. What does it feel like to be back?
Well, I have to say that my leave started while I was on the strike, which is unfortunate because I'm losing part of it, whereas I could have been enjoying my leave next week. But I have been at CSA every week every day in spite of that. So I know what it feels like to be at work. I haven't been back in my own workplace, but I've been in communication with the members who have returned to work. And all in all, they are pleased to be back at work, but they're saying that they have a lot of catching up to do because there's a lot of work that have piled up since they were out. So I think some of them are feeling a little bit overwhelmed. But all in all, they are happy to be back at work.
Now, the strike, the CSA decided to pursue that avenue. And many people are saying that this strike has not been effective for the reason that, work is still going on. A number of public servants represented by your union did not come out or chose to go back before you actually asked them to. What is your assessment of how things have played out so far?
Well, we heard that during the strike, but our own assessment was that a lot of members stayed home because initially we told the members were so hyper about the whole thing, they were so hyped up. We asked the members to stay home initially when they just decided to go on strike. The first 2-3 days, they were asked to stay. And then to start coming out to the CSA Center to sign so that we make sure that they are accounted for. Okay? And still a lot of members chose to stay home, especially members along the coast down south, because it cost them to come down to town and to just come to sign a register and go back home seemed to them a little bit, fruitless, if I might use that word. But we had a lot of members come into the CSA Center. And like I said, a lot of members who stayed home compared to members who actually went to work. We know that the strike was very effective. There are places of work that shut down every day of the strike, that stayed closed every day of the strike.
Which places were you talking about here?
Well, the ministry.
Well, some of the ministries, some of the departments in the ministries.
Which ones in particular?
Ministry of Agriculture is one.
Ministry of Commerce, some of the customs departments, Inland Revenue Department, the High Court Registry, the birth certificate, where they get in the birth certificates and so on. Some places in the Immigration Department, and a lot of the different ministries had different sections that were closed. So we know that the strike was very effective. Okay, we did not have an all-out strike because we still had essential services in the workplace. We had not written to have them come out as yet because we did not feel it was necessary to do so. And we understand the need for members who are working in the areas of essential services and the duties that they perform, and we know that it was important that some of them still remain there until we could try to resolve things without having to call them out.
Now, you're talking about essential services, but when I think of essential services, and I know a lot of the viewers as well, you think of the fire, police, nurses, doctors, and all of these groups decided to go along with, follow the lead of the police and accept the 4%. So which essential services would there be left to be on hand?
We're talking about the hospitals, medical services, right? We have the Met Office, meteorological services. We have some other essential services. I cannot recall all of them right now. But these people specifically had to stay on the job while we ourselves were out there.
Let me bring Mr. Pierre in.
Sure.
You have, I'm sure this is not your first industrial protest. Your life in the union is I would assume very colorful and very lengthy as well. How does this action differ from actions that you've been a part of in the past?
Well, the last protest that I was involved in, I was at the Prime Minister's office. I was a senior officer, grade 19 in the Prime Minister's office. And I was the only one in that grade 19 that went on strike during that period. The way how this one differ is that what we have seen is that we have some new persons, a lot of our members are new, and relatively have not had any kind of experience in terms of trade union. So it was a really new experience for them. And it was an experience that would live for a lifetime, because what we saw in the strike was that you got more bonding of persons. Persons begin to understand what the trade union was all about and where it came from and the significance of trade union, even to the development of St. Lucia. I mean, a lot of our members were not aware that the trade unions existed before the Labour Party under St. Lucia and the United Workers' Party. In fact, even the Labour Party was, the CSA really was our shoot from the St. Lucia Labour Party. And they were very excited when they heard that, because really trade unions started before the political parties. And what is also significant is when you look at the parties themselves, the St. Lucia, the United Workers' Party, the St. Lucia Labour Party, Labour, you begin to understand, but these two parties represented the plights of workers. It wasn't the St. Lucia private sector party, you know. It was the St. Lucia Labour Party, and it was the United Workers' Party.
Having said that, don't you think that is a feeling on the part of the unions that the only time the members really know about what trade unionism is when there is industrial protest, when there is wage negotiation, when they cannot get their way with the employer, which is the government, and they decide to come out and take action?
You're correct. And I think a lot of people, even not only our members, do not understand the significant role that trade unions have played in the development of not only St. Lucia, but the Caribbean. And even at the discussion, when we had discussions with our members, we were even telling them how the trade union movement started the cooperative movement. In fact, that was an offshoot of the trade union movement, and we gave them the historical perspective of that in 1984, 83, where you had some artisans that were actually fighting for their rights as workers for increased salary, and the employer was not giving them the increased salary. So they decided, 28 of them decided to set up a fund and establish the first consumer cooperative. And that was in 1983, you know, and it was really during the Industrial Revolution. And the similar situation exists now. It's a different form, and the form that it exists now is the financial crisis that exists in the world today, and the inflation, the inflation rate that is affecting the purchasing power of members. So you see the very same thing that was happening before. It's the same thing that we're trying to do now, using the trade union movement to do that. Our CSA was the mother of the credit union, the Civil Service Credit Union, which is the largest credit union in St. Lucia. It was as a result of persons at the CSA trying to get a loan at one of the banks, and it was difficult for them to get the loan to build houses. And they decided to put their money together and establish the St. Lucia Civil Service Association. And today, this organization is one of the biggest credit union in St. Lucia. And so it's a really offshoot of the trade union movement. So they saw the significance of what the trade union movement can do for them as financial institutions.
I'm sure
also
that the leaders of the CSC and the other unions are aware of that history. But in terms of imparting that knowledge, having your young members, people who are just joining the service and wanting to be part of the CSA, or people who you have canvassed to be part of the CSA, shouldn't the CSA and other unions do more to educate them even before they sign on that dotted line, even before the first deduction is made for union dues, to let them know what they're getting into, what it is about, and why it is important? Are the unions too focused on getting that deduction and having people sign up, and not of educating them about trade unionism?
Well, I do not know if they are too focused on having people sign on the dotted line, because really and truly people come to the union based on what they see. During this past the past 3 weeks there, we've seen an increase of about 150 members
new
just
members
coming and signing on with CSA. So it is not like we go out and we recruit them to come. They hear of something going on, or they like an activity that they see, and then they decide to join, or they need protection from the employer, from victimization sometimes, and then they realize that, hey, there's the union, I need the union's assistance, so they come and they join. But like you say, maybe there isn't enough training or development in terms of member appreciation for their union, and this is something that we have to look at. I know that there are some workshops where they are looking at, where we intend to look at trade union reform, because you are seeing where trade unions have operated a certain way, and maybe now we need to shift the way that we operate, because you are looking at a different generation, a different mindset. So maybe we need to innovate the way that we are trying to get our members, people's attention to come to the union. Okay, but it is true, I believe, that we are not doing enough in terms of educating the public, in terms of appreciating what unions can do for them. I believe we are not doing enough education.
Now, you said you had 150 new sign-ups. Have you had any people leaving the trade union as a result of not being satisfied? Because you have heard these rumbles around the place that people are dissatisfied. I remember reading a missive from one member who had attacked you personally. I don't want to say attacked, but who had called you out, and who had said, he or she, I can't remember what the gender was ashamed to be a part of the CSA. Have you seen people expressing that point of view, that sentiment, and leaving the union as a result?
Well, it's interesting you should mention that, because what happened was other members decided to try and find out who that person was. And what they came up with was that person during the last election was sending messages the same way to people, that same person. So they believe it was a pseudonym that was being used by someone who just was trying to be malicious. Notwithstanding that, we know that sometimes members will leave the union. Members will be dissatisfied for one reason or another, and they decide to leave the union. Sometimes even because the union cannot represent them the way that they want to be represented. For instance, somebody may feel they have a grievance with an employer, and the union will go in, find out what it is, and realize that the worker may not be quite right about the way that they are thinking things should go, and the union might just take a back seat or say, well, look, this is not quite right. Your behavior really is not acceptable, because we do that sometimes. And the worker might not like that and decide, well, let me get out of this thing because they did not say or do what I wanted them to say or do. You understand? So sometimes people pull out. But by and large, you usually have more people joining the union, because our membership keep increasing as opposed to decreasing. So I believe you have a larger number of people joining than leaving.
And clearly they've seen the benefits of the union. It's not just looking for increased wages for members. We also look at the health and safety of the members themselves. We have an insurance policy with Sagicor, which normally covers our members. We are looking for affordable housing for our members. We have just established a multi-purpose housing cooperative, workers cooperative, and this is going to be the institutional framework for us to get some benefits and some other support for our members, even to the extent of even creating additional income streams for them, so that can help them to hedge against inflation and that kind of thing. And so that I think they have seen that as a benefit for them, because we have set up the largest credit union in St. Lucia. So now we have another cooperative, which is a multi-purpose cooperative that I think it's on May the 1st, May Day, we're going to be launching it. And it's going to be exciting for us, and the members are seeing that and the benefits that would bring towards them and things. So,
okay, you're watching Newsmaker Live. We have here with us the president of the Civil Service Association, Ms. Mary Isaac, and also Mr. Wilfred Pierre. He is the first vice president of the organization. We'll take our first break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion. We want to know exactly why the CSA decided to go to work yesterday. Also, why March? And you've been hearing the rumors out there, or the whispers that, you know, it's not about the 9.5, but it's about respect. We'll ask the CSA representatives just about that. Stay with us.